women leaders in particular, I think it's really important to go through the process of creation as a team because there are going to be many successes, I'm sure of that, but there's going to be very many failures. And you get your strength in going through hard things together.
What happens when you get an idea and you make it come to life and it starts having a ripple effect beyond anything you could imagine? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Women Leaders on the Move, a Her C-Suite Radio podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Benamou, and every week I bring you incredible stories to help you feel inspired and lifted up for your life and your career. I'm also the founder of Her C-Suite, where we help women in the second half of our careers make an impact and live the best lives ever with board service, entrepreneurship, and designing that portfolio career that gives us meaning. I'm also the founder and chair of Next Elite AI, our newest program, and that is part of what we talk about today, and I can't wait for you to hear it. All of this relates as it comes to my guest today. Sue Harnett is the CEO and founder of Rewriting the Code, one of the largest nonprofit peer-to-peer network of students and women in tech that offers support and resources to help women advance in technology industries. This conversation was so inspirational. I can't wait for you to hear it. So let's get started now. Sue, I am so excited to welcome you to Women Leaders on the Move today. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I have been looking forward to this.
I saw the work that you're doing and I said, oh, you mean I get to interview you? This is so fun. So I am so thrilled to share your story out in the world because what you're doing is so important. And I always like to start with a little bit of context because where you started and where you are now are a little bit different worlds. So I want to know, curious learner wants to know, how did you bridge your sports experience into doing the work you're doing, and talk a little bit about that?
Sports has been a cornerstone in my life since I was a very little girl. Yeah, I just love basketball. I grew up in New York City, had lots of opportunities to play, and all of the lessons that I learned throughout my career growing up and playing at all different levels has just really formed who I am. And one of the cornerstones of that is how important teams are. I don't think there's really anything in life that I can really think of that you should try and do on your own. We need to enjoy ourselves, solve problems, collaborate, get all different types of input in order to make anything interesting. Teams have just been so instrumental.
When I watched your TED Talk, it was so empowering to me to hear your story because you recorded that in 2020. My daughter was a freshman. She changed her career from STEM to not being in STEM because they were remote and she couldn't figure out how she could possibly do biology and chemistry on the computer in her dorm room instead of being in person in the lab. So it changed her STEM trajectory, sadly. And now she's trying to figure out, well, do I go back? She's a year out of graduation. So I think the statistics that you shared 5 years ago have so minutely increased. It's not even, I think it's 24%. You know better than me, but the importance of girls and young women getting into STEM, how did that start for you? Because you talked about you're going to university and your experience. What led you to getting into STEM and being passionate about that for young women?
A lot of things that have occurred in my life are related back to Duke University, which is where I went to undergraduate and graduate school. Although I grew up in New York City, I've made North Carolina my home, and specifically Durham. A very good friend of mine is a computer science professor, and there was a grant that was made available to the department to try and understand why so many women take the first course, and then there's a big drop off. And then they take the second course and another big drop off. And then usually if a woman makes it into the third course, they stay. And they wanted to understand why so many women were leaving. I feel like what I do is more related to sociology than it is to computer science, right? I sat with a lot of women who stayed in the major, those who left the major, and lots of different reasons, but the through line was feeling like they did not belong. And for me, who grew up as a first generation college student and have such a passion for creating opportunities for everyone to shine, to talk to these young women and hear that it wasn't that they didn't like the coursework, it wasn't that they weren't good at it. They just felt that it was a systemic issue where the men were 24/7 tech. Not only were they taking the classes, but they were doing a consulting project on the side, they were gaming at night, and most of the computer science professors are men, and they just didn't feel like they had a space. That's very similar to how I felt when I went to Duke, being a bit of a fish out of water and being part of something bigger than yourself, being part of a basketball team, being part of a team that shares a passion needed to be at a higher level than your local university because the communities for women who are interested in technology at the local level, at the school level, are often just too small. So, what I wanted to do was create a national team of women in technology that were very relatable to each other, had that undergraduate experience, and do it on a direct to student basis and not necessarily through the entrance of their university. And it worked.
I would love to hear about the success of that over time. And you now are a very large organization. So share how big you are because I think our listeners are going to be like, that's huge.
So in the summer of 2017, when we started, we had 80 young women in the community from probably about 13 universities. Today, we have over 40,000 women that are somewhere on a 10-year timeline. And that 10-year timeline goes from your first year at university through up to 6 years into your professional life. We added that early career professional community because the transition from college into industry is another set of challenges. And our graduates were coming back to us and saying, gosh, could you please help us in this early career? It's such a big transition. So, our collective community is in 191 countries, and the women come from over 1,100 universities around the world.
The numbers are so encouraging and amazing. And I have to ask this question because this is the area that I've sort of moved into, which is AI. And knowing those numbers, this is the question I have that when I was reading about it and knowing our experience on the receiving end of AI, right? It doesn't feel like it's written by women. The language isn't language that we would normally use. When you ask a question, it always comes back confidence. I have executive women, they don't lack confidence. So I have to keep saying, I'm not talking about confidence here. So stop giving me that word. Now, sometimes it is, depending on the context, but it's always empower, confidence, all these words that lead me to believe, and I think I'm right in this, that very few of those models were influenced by women. So with this big community that you have, is there a desire to get into that? And what kind of influence might you have? And what are your thoughts on the first experience? I guess I gave you three questions. You can answer whatever you want.
Thank you for asking it because it's so incredibly important. So, number one, not just women, but men and women who have all different types of background and life experiences, ethnicities, cultures, equally have to participate in order to make this the type of tool that can do the good that it can do in the world. So we need to have everyone involved in this development. And I think you're absolutely right. The representation of women and women of color has not been what it should be. So I think that's the first piece. The second piece is there are some incredible nonprofits out there in the world, and I have so much respect for people that do this work. The thing that's different about rewriting the code is that we are not an aspirational community, maybe working with young people to hope that they go into tech. 75% of our community, of that 40,000, are women in the workforce. They are engineers, they are technologists and data scientists and AI professionals. And, the women at the university level are, a stone's throw away. And the other very unique part of this is that they're Gen Z. And these women care so incredibly deeply about the social impact of their work. And they are such a special generation and one that we are so incredibly lucky to have. What we need to make sure that we can do is provide them with the skills, the experiences, and the application of how to use AI today so that as they continue to progress as leaders in their organizations and they're hiring people and they're running companies, that they are equipped to make the best decisions that they possibly can. And we are standing up a very exciting initiative, which we have termed Rewrite AI. I love the name of our company, and we're trying to rewrite a lot.
I love it. You're speaking my language right now, so I love it. So tell me about that. Tell me what that looks like.
So it's so interesting because we're a very member-led organization. We have 26 teammates on the Rewriting the Code team. Four are based in the UK. We are very dedicated to the UK and Ireland and Northern EMEA and soon to be India. And we make sure that we are in constant contact with our membership. And we do that through lots of different means. One is from a very consistent access forward initiative is we do a lot of surveys, very regular surveys that we look at the outcomes and the changes on a longitudinal basis over time. We also do monthly pulse surveys. And the women very actively participate in these because we immediately give them the results so that they can see not only what's going on with themselves, but what's going on with their peers. And AI has come on quick and it's here to stay and it's exciting. But a lot of those women who are in their early career never had any formal training at the university level in AI. And the universities are grappling right now with how to expose their students in the most meaningful ways. And it's a bell curve like anything else, right? And what we have talked to our students about and our early career members about is how do you want to learn? How do you see yourself really jumping into this in the most productive and interesting ways? Again, not criticizing anyone's approach to this because anyone who is in the weeds trying to work on this, I hold up and admire so very much. But based upon what our Gen Z membership is telling us, is that they want to learn with each other. They want to have a buddy, or they want to have an accountability partner, or they want to have someone that they could meet up with in their community or virtually and do this together. So that's number one. Number two is there's so much content out there. The thought of sitting down and taking a 12-week online course is just something that these very busy, challenging women don't have the time to do. So what we're doing is we are looking to partner with our existing partners and new corporate partners in technology who have those learning and development courses and opportunities and speakers and have our constituents learn directly from the tech companies and have those resources that they could tap into. And then what we're going to do is give them the opportunity to work on projects that are passion projects of their own, projects that could be company challenges that they come together and solve. They have to have the application and get in and really put in the work and learn how all of this works. From there, those companies at this level of woman who is a part of our community, we have a lot that want to spend time devoting their career to AI. And we have others that just want to have a fluency. We want to have something that can meet the needs of anyone in the community. And we want to do it in a way where there'll be a lot of uptake and interest and support.
There is no shortage of taking courses on AI, but I love that you're partnering with companies because what I'm sensing is that then they're at the source of where, the information is coming from. I spend quite a lot of time reading all the updates, and every day it's different than it was yesterday. And so just keeping up with that is overwhelming. And so then it's, layer on they're working full time and they're trying to manage the thing. And the number of women that you have in the conversation is so encouraging. That's number one, is that we need to just be in the conversation because we haven't been leading or driving or anything. So these women have so much momentum forward that they can do, not just fluency, but really making the future they want to see happen because they are right there to do it. And hopefully they feel that in this thing that you're launching in 2026, which I can't wait for because I think it's so important. So exciting.
It's very exciting. And the women are excited. It's there. It belongs to them. Our jobs are to facilitate as much as we possibly can. We have great relationships with a large number of tech companies. And then we have just an extremely competent group of young women. One of the other things I have to say I'm very passionate about is leveling the playing field for these women. There's the top 25 ranked universities in every country around the world and things of that nature. And sometimes companies just focus on them. And I think that is such a miss. Having women that represent so many different universities where they come from, and a large percentage of our population has to work. And sometimes they're supporting their families. They can't necessarily 100% of their time just focus on their work or focus on their academics. And I think that that makes those women richer in their experience. They have more to bring to the table, and they will be the problem solvers because they haven't had the easiest path. And that's what I've experienced, and that's what a lot of my personal peers have experienced. I think that it's an incredibly exciting time to see these women flourish, and we need other women involved to help and support them.
We had talked before we got on about the importance of mentoring, and you've got the peer-to-peer mentoring where you're talking about the buddy system, but also mentoring of women, that they can see that look and are leading in ways that will inspire them. What are you seeing as the greatest opportunity for that mentoring program to really make an impact?
We need women who are at all stages of their career to really get involved and to work with women and to model for them, model how they have navigated sometimes some very challenging career paths. We need them to tell their stories. We need them to also talk about their failures. Oftentimes, I think people like to talk about their accomplishments, and that's always just, such a great lessons to be had and learned from there. But there needs to be a level of vulnerability that women share to say, you know what, it's hard, but it's certainly something that you can do. And what's really interesting to see is, some of the women I knew who were OG members of rewriting the code when they were college students. One of my long-term women who I admire just had her first baby and sent me a picture of her and the baby in the hospital together. And this is a woman who works for one of the top companies in the world, and she has an incredible partnership and an incredible family that she's building, and she is leading an incredible team in, again, one of the top tech companies that there ever has been. And all of that is doable, but you need those models to relate to. And when things get tough or you're in uncharted territory, it's just so comforting to be able to have a conversation that is reassuring.
One of the things that's coming to mind is that executive sponsorship. As you think about mentoring, is that executive sponsorship of the person behind the scenes that's advocating for, there's so often the assumptions are made, women planning families, like you're talking about, she's not going to want that promotion because she's planning a family, or these assumptions and unconscious bias. And so having that advocate behind the scenes, that dual role and advising the women, in addition to mentoring, you need to seek out someone 2 levels ahead of you that's going to advocate for you when you're not in that room, so that you're getting that opportunity. So I think that that's so important. I don't know if you're seeing that as well for women to advance.
Absolutely. And that could be a woman at your company, could be a woman who's actually not at your company. What I hear from a lot of the early career women, they appreciate that there are ERGs, employee resource groups, and others sometimes to get together. But what's unique about this group is they don't often feel when they go to, let's say, a women in tech group at a large company, the majority of the women that might be participating might be mid-career or later career. And that's important. And there's a place to be inspired by those women. But they also need their peer group, who may even be 1 or 2 years ahead of them. And they want to be able to have really honest conversations. So oftentimes, being able to connect with someone who's outside your company, where it might not be a threat to your position or your promotional track, and just to be very, very honest is also needed. So at any turn, just to be able to encourage, share, uplift any young person is incredibly important.
I think that external lens is so important because, as you were saying, outside perspective is beneficial to the company. It's definitely beneficial to the person because what are you doing over there? This is what I'm facing. What are you doing? How are you solving this challenge? So you get that outside perspective. So that's incredible advice. If people are listening today and when this comes out and they want to get involved, where should they go? What can they do to get involved with your organization? Because it's so incredible. I want to make sure that they know where to go.
Our website is rewritingthecode.org, and you can sign up to be a mentor, or you can just fill out an inquiry and say that you want to chat with someone on the team so that you, as an individual, can get involved, your company can get involved. We work in so many different capacities. A lot of our work is in social impact. So we work with some incredible companies in different mentorship and volunteer days that they have. We work with the talent folks to be able to identify what oftentimes is a hard to find person. If you're recruiting at individual schools and you're really serious about having women on your team, there's just such a small proportion of that community that is women. We are the gatherers of the needle in the haystack, and we have quite a haystack. Just so many ways, and not just women, but men as well. I think it's really important that they get exposed to just all different types of leaders.
So I could talk to you all day because this is my favorite topic. So I love talking about women and growing, expanding their careers, but also technology and STEM and all the things. So I think what you're doing is incredible. I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this was an absolute pleasure. I'm glad I was introduced to your work because I've already consumed several podcasts. You're doing incredible things. And, the more that we can collaborate and support each other, the better.
Thank you for spending your time with us today. I know you walked away feeling inspired and motivated. Can you imagine starting from 80 to 40,000 people? What an incredible arc of impact, and the ripple effect is real. If you want to help be a mentor for this incredible organization, I hope that you will check out all the links in the show notes, get involved, be a mentor, or be an executive influencer in a company that could really change someone's life. If this episode was helpful, I would be so grateful if you would share it with a friend or colleague. And as always, I want you to keep shining your light bright. The world needs you.